The interstellar research station floated quietly above the blue and green planet below. Its huge windows showed the swirling clouds and shining oceans. Inside, scientists from many alien worlds worked together, their hands moving quickly over strange tools and glowing panels. Lieutenant Arya Kessler, the only human on the station, moved between the tables, checking instruments and taking notes. She had trained for years for missions like this, but she always felt small among the taller, stronger and more confident alien species. Suddenly, a sharp red light flashed across the control room. A loud alarm rang through the station, echoing in the metal corridors. The gravity system, the machine that kept the station's floors solid, was failing. The sound made many of the aliens freeze, unsure what to do. Some of them had never experienced this kind of emergency. Objects began to rise from the floor. A stack of papers floated upward, followed by pens, tools, and even small equipment carts. Crew members grasped at anything they could hold. Tentacles, wings, and long arms reached desperately, but many were too slow. A tall alien scientist with 4 arms tried to grab a floating control panel, but it slipped from his grasp and spun into the air. Arya's feet, however, stayed firmly on the floor. She looked around calmly, her mind already thinking about what needed to be done. She reached out to steady a younger alien scientist who was spinning slowly upward. "Hold my hand," she said. Her voice was calm, steady, unlike the panic all around her. The alien hesitated, then grabbed her hand and she pulled him down safely. The station shook slightly as if it were alive and angry. Alarms blared louder. The anti-gravity pulse from the failing system grew stronger. Everything that was not attached to the floor or a wall lifted into the air. Chairs, small robots, and containers of supplies floated wildly, spinning. Some creatures tried to fly or use their limbs to hold on, but the erratic gravity made it impossible. Arya moved with careful steps, her balance perfect. She ducked under floating equipment and caught a small crate that had started to drift toward the open observation window. With a firm grip, she placed it safely on the floor. A creature with translucent skin floated past her, its eyes wide with fear. Arya reached out and grabbed it gently, setting it down. The alien blinked and whispered words she did not understand, but the gratitude was clear. She ran toward the control panel, the heart of the gravity system, where flashing lights showed error codes she could barely read. The other aliens were frozen in fear, their bodies spinning or struggling in the shifting gravity. Some of them shouted or screamed, which made the chaos worse. Arya ignored the noise and focused. She climbed over floating wires and cables, keeping her feet on the few solid surfaces left. Her training kicked in. Years of zero-gravity exercises in spacesuits made her movements precise and quick. She grabbed loose straps to swing herself from one panel to another. She touched a lever and it clicked. Then she pressed a button and the control screen flickered. The gravity system was unstable, but she could stabilize parts of it slowly. Each adjustment she made helped reduce the chaos, making small sections of the floor solid again. Aliens around her started to notice. The fear in their eyes mixed with surprise. How could a human, so small and seemingly fragile, move through this disaster with such control? Tentatively, a few tried to follow her instructions. Arya guided them calmly, telling them where to hold and when to move. Together, they managed to keep a few floating objects from hitting others. Still, the danger was far from over. The station's core gravity was still fluctuating. Alarms flashed continuously, warning that the system could fail completely. Objects and creatures still spun and collided. Arya wiped sweat from her forehead, but her hands did not shake. She moved with determination, her eyes sharp, reading the room like a map. Each step, each grab, each careful placement of a floating object brought the station closer to safety. Even as panic surrounded her, Arya felt a strange clarity. She realized something important. In moments of chaos, humans had an ability to focus, to adapt, to act calmly when others could not. Her mind worked quickly, finding solutions where others only saw danger. She could sense the rhythm of the failing gravity, and she could move with it instead of against it. Minutes felt like hours. The floating objects began to slow. The floor under Arya became more stable. Slowly, the other crew members regained control of themselves. They looked at her with amazement and a new respect, whispering among themselves in their alien languages. No one had ever seen a human do this before. Arya took a deep breath, her heart still racing, and adjusted another lever. The alarms quieted slightly, the most chaotic spinning stopped, and the station became partially stable. She glanced around at the crew. Most were still shaken, but they were safe. And somehow, against the wild anti-gravity pulse, she remained upright. In that moment, the crew understood something unspoken. Humans might seem small and weak compared to other species, but in moments of extreme danger, they could do what others could not. And in the chaos of the station, Arya Kessler had just proven it. After the gravity crisis, the research station was quiet but tense. The alien crew still floated slightly in the corridors, their movements cautious. Arya Kessler stood near the main control room, her hands on her hips, breathing evenly. She had saved the station during the sudden shift, but now another challenge waited. The aliens wanted to understand why she had stayed upright while everyone else struggled. The lead scientist, a tall, silver-skinned creature with 3 glowing eyes, approached her. Its voice was low and trembling with curiosity. "Human, you did not float. How is this possible?" it asked. Arya smiled faintly. "I guess I'm just used to moving in difficult situations," she said. "Training helps." The scientist was not satisfied. He gestured to a nearby lab and other crew members followed. The room was filled with strange scanners, glowing tubes and hovering machines. Arya stepped inside carefully, noticing the aliens' nervous glances. They started scanning her from head to toe. The machines whirred and clicked, sending beams of light across her body. Every alien gathered around, their eyes wide with wonder. "Look at the bones," said one alien, pointing to a glowing projection of her skeleton. "They are denser than expected." Another pointed to her muscles, noting how they contracted and stretched in ways that helped her stay balanced. A third scanned her nervous system, highlighting the signals that moved faster than usual. Arya listened politely but kept her expressions calm. She had expected curiosity, but this level of attention was new. The aliens whispered among themselves in their strange language. They had never seen a species adapt so quickly to sudden changes in gravity. Some seemed afraid, unsure if humans were naturally stronger than they appeared. Others were fascinated, excited by the mystery of her abilities. Arya felt a mixture of pride and discomfort. She didn't want to feel different, but she realized she was in a position no one else could be in. After the initial scans, the aliens asked her to demonstrate her abilities. Arya moved carefully through the lab, avoiding floating tools and wires. She walked along narrow beams without losing balance and reached for floating objects, placing them on stable surfaces. The crew watched silently, some trying to mimic her movements but failing. She explained each step simply: "Keep your center of gravity low. Move slowly. Use your hands to guide you." Her instructions helped some aliens stabilize, but most were still clumsy and unsure. Meanwhile, the lead scientist began analyzing the gravity system logs. He showed Arya the display, full of complex symbols and flashing numbers. The system had nearly failed completely, but her quick actions had prevented disaster. "You saved us," he said quietly. Arya shrugged. "I did what anyone trained could do. I just stayed focused." The investigation continued through the day. The aliens ran more scans, taking notes and comparing their results with Arya's body. They were curious about how humans could move quickly and stay upright without floating. Some suggested it was the human muscles, others said it might be the brain. Arya simply nodded and explained her experiences in space training and emergency drills. She had learned to react to sudden changes, to stay calm under pressure, and to adjust her movements instinctively. During this time, Arya noticed some alien crew members were still scared to move freely. One small, winged alien hovered near the ceiling, trembling. She reached out. "You can hold this," she said, tossing it a small safety strap. "Use it to stay stable." The alien caught it and slowly began moving with more confidence. Arya realized that humans had another strength: teaching and guiding others calmly, even in dangerous situations. By evening, the aliens had gathered all the data. They showed Arya the results. Her body responded to gravity in ways no other species did. Her bones were stronger, her muscles more flexible, her balance almost perfect. They looked at her with respect, a mix of admiration and disbelief in their eyes. Arya smiled faintly but reminded them, "You all helped too. Without teamwork it would have been worse." Even as the aliens discussed her abilities, Arya's mind was already thinking about the station. The gravity system was repaired partially, but small fluctuations remained. They needed to monitor it constantly or another emergency could happen. Arya volunteered to assist with the adjustments, moving through the corridors with precision, helping stabilize tools and guiding crew members safely. She became the quiet center of calm, the one everyone relied on when small problems threatened to become big ones. By night, the station was mostly safe and the crew rested. The aliens no longer looked at her as just a human. They saw someone special, a species that could adapt, survive, and lead when the situation was most dangerous. Arya, tired but steady, looked out the window at the planet below. The swirling clouds reflected the lights of the station. She understood that humans were small in size, but their determination, focus, and ability to act under pressure gave them an advantage no one could ignore. In the quiet of the station, Arya realized that the investigation was not just about understanding her. It was about understanding humans themselves, how they could face danger, stay calm, and help others when no one else could. And as the stars sparkled outside, she knew that the universe might see humans as fragile, but in the right moment they could do the impossible. The station had calmed after the initial crisis, but the relief was short-lived. The gravity system, though repaired partially, still flickered in strange patterns. Lights blinked on and off, and small objects began to drift unexpectedly. The alien crew moved cautiously, their movements tense. Every creature on the station knew that even a small misstep could trigger another dangerous situation. Arya Kessler walked through the corridors, checking panels and monitoring instruments. Her eyes scanned each display, noticing tiny fluctuations in gravity levels. "It's not stable yet," she said quietly to herself. She moved toward the observation deck, where the core gravity system could be seen from multiple angles. From there, she could measure the movement of the station and predict how objects and crew might behave. Suddenly, a loud rumble shook the station. Sensors detected a small asteroid belt approaching nearby. The station's automatic defense systems activated, firing energy pulses to redirect the debris. But the pulses were not perfect. Each shot created tiny shockwaves that made gravity fluctuate even more. Objects and even crew members began to float and spin, some hitting walls and panels. Panic started to rise again. Alarms blared as a crate of scientific equipment floated toward a large viewport. Arya reacted instantly. She ran, her feet moving with perfect balance. She reached the crate, grabbed it, and pulled it down safely. The crate hit the floor with a thud, sending a few sparks from a loose wire. She quickly checked it. Nothing was broken. The aliens nearby stared, mouths open, clearly amazed. A tentacled alien scientist tried to stabilize a floating panel but failed. Its arms waved helplessly in the air. "Human," it cried. "Help us." Arya ran over, grabbed the panel, and held it firmly while directing the alien to attach it to a wall. "There," she said calmly. "Now hold tight and move slowly." The alien nodded, finally understanding how to manage in the shifting gravity. The situation worsened when a small cargo drone lost power and started spinning toward the control room. It bumped into walls, sending smaller objects flying. Arya ran, caught the drone, and used its stabilizers to bring it safely to the floor. Her movements were quick, precise, and almost instinctive. Other crew members tried to help, but they were clumsy and slow. Each time, she had to guide them with calm instructions and steady hands. Amid the chaos, the aliens began to whisper among themselves. "How can one human do all this?" one of them asked. Another replied, "It is not just strength. She understands the movement, the rhythm of gravity." Even those who had doubted humans began to respect Arya. She was not just surviving, she was controlling the situation when no one else could. Arya's mind worked faster than ever. She realized that the asteroid belt would make the station's gravity system fluctuate more than usual. She needed to anticipate each movement, to act before disaster struck. She ran from panel to panel, pressing levers, adjusting dials, and stabilizing objects. Every step she took was careful but swift. She communicated with other crew members, directing them where to hold, when to move, and how to balance. One alien, small and winged, struggled to reach a floating tablet. It hovered dangerously close to a spinning light fixture. Arya swooped in, caught the tablet midair, and handed it to the alien. "Here, now you can work safely," she said. The alien blinked and nodded, a mix of fear and gratitude on its face. Even as the threat intensified, Arya stayed calm. She could see the station's weak points, the areas where gravity might fail completely. She guided crew members to secure tools, attach floating panels, and stabilize experiments. Her leadership was quiet but firm. No one argued or panicked when she spoke, they trusted her instinctively. Minutes felt like hours as she worked tirelessly. The asteroid belt passed by, but the station still trembled. Gravity continued to flicker, but with Arya's guidance, the damage was minimal. Small fires and sparks were quickly extinguished, floating objects were secured, and crew members regained some control of their movements. Finally, the alarms slowed. The energy pulses from the asteroid belt ended, and the station's gravity began to stabilize gradually. Crew members looked at one another in relief. They had survived the threat, largely thanks to Arya's quick thinking and calm actions. Even those who had doubted humans now whispered among themselves, clearly impressed. Arya took a deep breath, her hands still steady despite exhaustion. She walked through the corridors, checking one last time that objects and equipment were safe. She knew the core gravity system was not fully repaired, but the station could hold for now. The aliens looked at her with a mix of awe and respect. For the first time, many realized that humans might be small and physically weaker than some species, but in moments of crisis, they could act in ways others could not. As Arya looked out the observation window at the passing asteroids, she understood something important. Strength was not always about power or size, it was about focus, adaptability, and courage. And in this moment, humans had something the aliens did not expect: the ability to remain calm, think clearly, and act decisively when everything else was falling apart. The station was safe, for now, but the crew knew that the universe was unpredictable. Arya Kessler, the human, had shown them that even in the worst threats there was hope. And with her leading the way, they might survive whatever came next. Even after the asteroid belt passed, the station's gravity system remained unpredictable. Small shifts and pulses caused objects to float or drift, and many of the alien crew were cautious, moving slowly and nervously. Arya Kessler walked steadily through the corridors, her movements precise and confident. She could sense the rhythm of the fluctuating gravity and move with it instead of being pushed around. The control room displayed new warnings. The core generator of the gravity system was unstable. If it failed completely, the station could spin out of orbit and be lost in space. The aliens stared at the readouts, unsure how to fix it. Their species had never dealt with such unpredictable gravity changes before, and fear slowed them down. Arya looked at the screens and felt a surge of determination. This was exactly the moment humans could make a difference. She turned to the alien crew. "Listen," she said calmly. "We need to manually adjust the generator. I can go, but I need everyone to follow my instructions carefully." Some aliens hesitated, afraid of moving while gravity fluctuated. Arya stepped forward, holding out her hand. "I'll guide you. Trust me." Slowly they nodded and prepared to follow. Arya moved first, climbing toward the control tower where the generator panels were located. Floating debris and equipment drifted around her, but she stepped carefully, using handholds and her sense of balance to navigate. The aliens tried to follow, but most struggled, their limbs flailing or drifting too far from walls. Arya guided them with short, simple commands. "Grab the rail. Step here. Hold tight." Her words were calm but firm, giving them confidence. When she reached the generator, she examined the panels quickly. The controls were delicate, and a single wrong adjustment could worsen the problem. She took a deep breath and started working, moving switches and pressing buttons with precision. The generator shuddered and sparks flew, but her steady hands kept the system from failing completely. A group of aliens floated nearby trying to help, but they kept making mistakes. Arya called out instructions in short, clear phrases, directing them to press buttons, hold levers, or stabilize panels. Slowly they learned to move safely in the shifting gravity. One small alien, with wings trembling, was able to hold a floating conduit steady because Arya guided it carefully. The creature's eyes widened with relief and pride. Time felt stretched as the team worked. Gravity pulsed, making the floor rise and fall slightly, sending loose objects spinning. Yet Arya adjusted her steps and movements with each pulse. She leaned, twisted, and reached with perfect timing, stopping dangerous equipment from hitting others. The aliens watched her in awe. They had never seen one being act with such precision while the world around them seemed to collapse. Finally, Arya focused on the generator's final control. This adjustment would stabilize the core for good, but it required exact timing and courage. She took another deep breath, measured the pulses, and moved her hands carefully. The generator lights flickered and then glowed steadily. A soft hum replaced the alarming beeps. Gravity slowly returned to normal. Objects settled to the floor and the floating crew landed safely. The aliens stared at Arya in stunned silence. Some hovered awkwardly, unsure if they should move. The lead scientist approached her, voice trembling with respect. "Human, you have done what we could not. You understand the station, the movement, in ways beyond our ability." Arya shook her head. "I just stayed calm and focused. I adapted. You all helped too." Even after the system stabilized, Arya stayed at the control tower, checking panels and monitoring readings. She guided the crew through minor adjustments, teaching them how to anticipate fluctuations and respond quickly. The aliens began to understand the value of her human approach: patience, observation, quick thinking, and adaptability. She had turned chaos into order through calm determination. Some of the younger aliens approached her, asking questions about human training and habits. Arya explained simply, humans practice dealing with emergencies, they learn to focus under pressure, and they adapt instinctively. The aliens listened carefully, their eyes wide with curiosity. For the first time, many realized humans were not just physically small, they had unique mental strengths and resilience. By the end of the day, the station was safe. The generator hummed steadily, alarms were silent, and the crew moved freely without fear. The alien scientists gathered, speaking quietly among themselves. They had witnessed something extraordinary. One of them finally said aloud, "Humans are different. In danger they see what others cannot. They act when others freeze. They are remarkable." Arya walked through the corridors, quietly helping anyone who needed guidance. She felt tired but steady. Her mind already considered what might happen next, what challenges could come from deep space and how she could help. The aliens now looked at her not as a fragile human, but as a leader in moments of crisis. They had learned that size, strength, or multiple arms did not always matter. Focus, courage, and adaptability could be far more powerful. As Arya looked out the large observation window at the endless stars, she realized the truth of the situation. Humans might seem ordinary among powerful alien species, but when disaster came, they could turn weakness into strength. And in this moment, on a fragile station above a distant world, that human advantage had saved them all. The station was quiet now. The gravity system was stable and the alarms had stopped. Crew members moved carefully, inspecting equipment and floating objects, but there was no panic. The alien scientists and workers had watched Arya Kessler for hours, and their respect for her had grown with every action she had taken. They could no longer see humans as fragile or weak. The lead scientist, tall and silver-skinned with 3 glowing eyes, approached her in the main control room. Its voice was calm but full of admiration. "Human, you have saved the station. Your actions, they are beyond anything we expected." Arya smiled softly and shook her head. "I didn't do it alone," she said. "We all worked together. Every one of you helped. That's what kept us safe." Despite her words, the aliens could not hide their amazement. They had seen her move through floating debris, stabilize the gravity generator, and guide crew members with calm precision. She had remained upright when everyone else struggled. Her bravery, quick thinking, and focus had been the key to survival. For the first time, they truly understood what humans were capable of. One of the younger aliens, small and winged, floated forward hesitantly. "Human, will you teach us?" it asked. Arya nodded. "I can show you ways to stay calm and move safely when gravity shifts. You have to practice and watch closely." She guided the alien to a nearby console and demonstrated simple exercises to adjust balance and hold objects in fluctuating gravity. The alien tried, failing at first, but with her patience and guidance, it managed to stay upright. Other aliens approached as well. Some asked questions about human training, others about her past missions. Arya answered simply, explaining how humans learn to face dangerous situations with focus and teamwork. She shared small lessons about observing the environment, anticipating movement, and staying calm under pressure. The crew listened carefully, eager to understand what made humans different. The lead scientist called for a formal meeting in the observation hall. Crew members gathered, standing on stable platforms while looking at the human who had saved them all. The council of senior aliens spoke in their languages, praising her courage, quick thinking, and adaptability. One elder said, "This human has shown us the value of focus and action in chaos. We have underestimated humans, we will not make that mistake again." Arya listened quietly, feeling a mix of pride and humility. She understood that respect was earned not by size or strength but by actions in critical moments. Humans had a way of observing, learning, and acting that many species did not. That had made all the difference on the station. As the meeting ended, crew members began returning to their work. Some looked at Arya with new admiration, following her guidance in organizing tools and stabilizing the remaining equipment. Others approached to simply say, "Thank you," in their own languages. Arya smiled at each of them, knowing that the small gestures of calm leadership mattered just as much as the big actions she had taken during the crisis. Even in the evening, after the work was done, Arya continued to move through the station. She checked each corridor, making sure objects were secure and minor shifts in gravity were corrected. The aliens began to imitate her careful movements, learning to adjust to the environment without fear. Slowly, the station regained its normal rhythm. From the observation deck, Arya looked at the stars beyond the station. The distant planets and sparkling galaxies reminded her of how vast the universe was. She knew there would be other emergencies, other crises that might test her skills and the crew's courage. But she also knew something important. Humans were not just small and fragile. They could adapt, lead, and act when others froze. Their determination could make them stronger than anyone expected. The alien scientists and crew lingered nearby, watching her quietly. There was no need for words. Their respect was clear in their eyes, their gestures, and the way they now moved with more confidence. They had learned an important lesson. When humans were involved, even the most unpredictable situations could be faced with calm determination and skill. Arya turned back toward the control panels, her eyes scanning the readings one last time. Everything was stable for now. She felt tired but steady. The station was safe, the crew was learning, and the aliens had seen what a human could do in moments of true danger. She smiled faintly to herself, knowing that the respect earned today was not just for her actions but for what humans represented: resilience, adaptability, and courage in the face of chaos. As she moved to leave the observation deck, she heard whispers of admiration from the crew behind her. Even those who had doubted humans now understood. In this vast universe, humans might be small, but when danger came they could stand tall and lead where others faltered. And that lesson, learned on a fragile station orbiting a distant world, would stay with the aliens forever. For Arya Kessler, the human, it was a quiet victory. Not for recognition, not for praise, but for the understanding that courage, calm thinking, and determination could inspire respect in even the most diverse and powerful species. And as the stars twinkled outside the windows, she knew that humanity had earned a place among the bravest beings in the galaxy.